officials, the highest
Yeah,
level
but the
officials. in
family
county.
didn't know yet. That's
Well,
why
I understand that, but my
sent
point,
it out.
my whole point of
There
that,
was no follow-up. You know, it's like the next day you're calling people and asking.
even besides no follow-up, the fact is, I understand what you're saying, and I respect that opinion, but as an elected official and one of the highest one in the county, I think we're all able to say, we can't speak because the family hasn't been notified, but I don't understand why people on the street at the coffee shop already knew. And I was never, still to this day, was never told who it was or where it was or what happened or any of the follow-up procedures. That's my point. I understand, you know, I'm not gonna go to a coffee shop and talk to people about it in my position. And I wouldn't give that information out if I had been told it. But the fact is, once again, we're treated like toddlers and we won't be able to keep our mouths shut.
Well, I knew almost immediately. I got a call from Devin.
Well, sure you did.
And I
And you
called
should
Becky,
have.
and I called Cheryl, and I called Lisa, and then Cheryl called me back. And that's where we left at that point, was for the family to be notified. So.
Well, as chairman
There
of
was
the-
no follow-up. I mean, I ended up calling my cousin Bill, who I didn't call Cheryl and say, can you at least tell me yes or no, because my cousin works there. You know, so you're sitting there, you get a phone call saying there's a death and it's a truck, you know, and that's what he does for the county. You're waiting, am I waiting? Because I gotta wait to see if it's my family, or in my position, can I know?
Right. And even a death side, if there was an accident on the highway crew, I think that, you know, in our position, we should have been notified, just like if, you know, somebody happens to fall at public health and is taken out in an ambulance and there may be long-term effects, we should be. I really feel that you're asking us to vote on a lot of different situations, but yet we're kept in the dark about prudent information that happens in our departments.
Well, as far as the immediate, you know, the immediate response, and your comment about people in the coffee shop are talking about it, but today,
It's there.
it's there.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Well, the
3
video
years ago-
news service had it on there, and people were commenting
Right.
already about, you know, well, his sister just died, you know, and so that information is disseminated already quickly.
it does, and
But yet we
I
still
don't think
don't
we
know.
could ever get ahead of it. I mean.
Right.
And I understand where you're coming from about the follow-up, that would probably work, but the,
Right, but it's not.
my
Right.
first guy hit the road. Before the
It's something that-
trucks, fire trucks and ambulance showed up, my daughter's calling me for Fredonia.
It's something
Right.
that should happen.
Because
Right.
it was put on Facebook, and Facebook.
Which goes back to my point of, we still haven't been officially.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit aggravating to be treated like a toddler.
I mean, I was asked about the same time, probably 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Who was it? I said, I don't know, they haven't contacted the family yet.
Right, and I understand that, and I respect the family, and I don't need to
I'm
know,
talking to a farmer that was on the tractor the whole time.
right,
He got text messages from friends and family, that somebody, you know, counted. So he stopped, you know, I stopped and see him. He comes in, goes, back to go. I don't know. I said, the family has been contacted yet.
But I think it's something we need to address, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I think there
maybe
needs to be
maybe
protocol.
it's something in the committee of the whole to say, you know, if there is a tragedy, how is it addressed so that we get the information that we need to have before.
even if it comes with a statement, that this is our statement as a board,
This,
works for me.
it went out immediately.
Not today.
Not the thing.
We still have not been told who
But we
or
were
where
never
or
I
how.
talked to Devin and he said the family had not been notified and he never.
We're confident, we can be confidential
Only
employees.
out of courtesy of the family. that-
I disagree at that point. We are the highest elected officials in this county. We have the
I hear it.
responsibility to
Probably.
understand
You
what's happening in
can't,
the county.
but you can't worry about that.
Jim Brick, no, and the clerk to the board.
You
know,
can't
why-
punish the whole.
Well,
You
What
can't.
makes those levels different than us?
but I do not have any confidence in.
That's fine.
The confidentiality of the truth.
That's
I
fine,
really don't.
but you can't punish the whole.
Right, but I mean, and even if you didn't right then and there, that's fine, but we were never, ever notified.
I think those things need to be.
We all had to read it and, or somewhere, and
And I knew about it right away, but not in person because my husband was driving behind the truck.
so what I'm just saying is that we just didn't ever have to follow up, and I just, you know, we shouldn't have to hear it on the street.
And the police supervisor repeatedly said that. I think, you know, if there's some sort of protocol in place where we're informed and a statement is given to us, that way, if we deviate from the script you say, it's on us. I'm an elected official, I take the hit. If I walk into Walmart and blurt out any confidential information, bring in Article 78. This is my elected position. I have the same ability to understand and know what's happening within this realm as every other seated official here. So I'm stepping off my soapbox,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Me too.
Okay, back to you.
Well, and that was just my, you know, like I said, I just called Cheryl to make sure it wasn't my cousin. You know, who was there, so.
I still don't even know. Me either.
All right, Rhonda, is this something we want to discuss in committee the whole thing? If there's a protocol, do we have a protocol?
Sandy knows,
I don't.
because I talked to her yesterday.
I know who it is.
I just feel that I think we should have been notified
Somebody else.
as soon as that we could have, the name, that we didn't have to read it. I'm not on Facebook, so I didn't read it on Facebook. But I called my highway superintendent in the morning, because highway guys know.
Yep.
They know everything, so those guys are tight, they have their, you know, that's why.
They have their
And
network.
I talked to Dad, and he said he wasn't even telling the guys, they were all gonna get together at closing there. He said he wasn't even going to release the name to the highway guys officially,
Like they're not
even
gonna,
though they would know, because they would know that he was talking
Right.
to Dad. And he said it was because until he knew that the family was notified. He really felt that it should be on the courtesy to the family not to lose their.
I think he must have told the guys, because I called my cousin in the morning, and he said that,
This was a-
he said that Devin handled it very well. He said he called all the guys in early, told them all to come back, and he said Devin handled it very, very well.
And I'm not saying he didn't, all I'm saying is that when I talked to him, Cheryl, when I called you, that was at what, 1:30, 2 o'clock?
Yep.
And I had never received notification of the annexed.
Okay, Rhonda.
I'm not happy, no.
Okay.
actually, yeah. It doesn't matter.
Forward to Finance Committee and Secretary of the Annual Mortgage Tax Report for the period October 2021 to March 2022.
It looked like it was pretty good numbers.
Yeah, yep.
I was wondering, I'm not, imagine a lot of people are gonna try to get their buying done before fixing their mortgage rates before, as they start to raise rates, they're gonna go up.
Our mortgage tax was up from last year from the year before, and this covers 3 months of that.
I have a motion by Supervisor Kale. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything else? Any questions you want today? Thank you.
He says I'm out of here.
Get out.
All right, Cindy.
She's smart, she doesn't.
Just a general update this month. I gave a presentation on Native American history, which always includes our area, of course. To a group in Alden, and there was about 30 in attendance. And another presentation at our Historical Society's Foundation dinner in Sheldon, and there was over 95 people. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, that was really good for a day conference. So other, people in our museums are ready to get out there and open the doors again. So that's good. So we're gonna do our summer program again. We're gonna hunt for gnomes throughout the counties and other museums and play board game. So you'll be seeing that shortly, probably in another week or two. Or actually, yeah, about 2 weeks. We start June 1st. We have our high school seniors in again from Warsaw doing their community service for their participation in government. And that always works out well because it saves money. We set aside certain tasks that we need done that, you know, in a variety of skill levels. And then we kind of change our hours around a little bit. I mean, the office is always open, but like I may come in later and stay late so that the students can come in after school at 3, stay till 6, you know, kind of thing. So that works out good. And last year we had a few who went right down to the wire. And there was like 5 or 6 of them, and Sally had them all in on Saturday to try to get their course done, so. But that's good to get the young people into the office, because then they're always like, wow, this stuff's really cool, you know, so. That's the point of that. Getting more walking traffic, including out of state. And as opposed to appointments, but we still do both, because that's always a normal thing. When summer comes, we start getting phone calls right around now from out-of-state people who sort of tend to plan their vacation around us, coming to New York in our office, and we have a lot of menus, you know, local menus from around the county in our office, and travel information, so we make sure they get everything to go out and about and do stuff. We also received word from Eileen, is that how you say that? Okay, I'm pretty sure. Hopkins, that James Gillen, we did the World War II book, is being inducted into the Senate Spectrum Hall of Fame. And he was nominated by Senator Gallivan. I think Jim thinks he's not going to drive to Albany. Well, his son probably would have drove, but that's kind of far. He's like probably 93, 90.
Yeah, we're doing a presentation here for him.
I think we're gonna work something out.
I can't remember if it's this month or June.
Oh, okay, well,
They did ask him and the gentleman said yes, so.
good. Well, yeah, we haven't figured that, but
Yeah.
I hadn't heard the sorting out of the details yet, so.
Yeah.
And I guess that's about it.
Anybody have any questions for Cindy?
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Number 1 is to send Assistant County Attorney Jennifer Nunnery to the NIPWOD conference where she to look at some CLEs and learn all about good stuff about prosecuting neglect cases. DSS is covering a portion. The county attorney's office is covering a portion. She's going to use her personal card track.
And I don't think I have the portions in the right. Because there was some discussion after that, and I never changed it, so.
Registration is being covered by the county attorney's office, the $204, and then it's like $800 that DSS is covering the hotel and Saratoga Springs.
So it should be on there. No, just this one, yeah, and the minutes will reflect the one.
Do you have any questions? No, a motion? Motion by Supervisor Granger, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Number 2 is the catch-up for Brian Degnan, able to catch up for his retirement for starting working with the county. Dan may know more how to explain it better, but that's what I understand it is.
It's a mandatory payment to the state tariff.
What does BDC, voluntary,
Sorry,
BDC, what does that stand for?
voluntary deferred compensation.
There we go.
Okay, can I have a motion to move that?
I was gonna ask that question.
Supervisor Hale, any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Number 3 is, I talked about last month how Dave Nelson did not, he did the resource recovery for department of social services. had been overpaid or whatnot. So we're gonna assign that. And then about $3,000 left, and that's set aside from Dave Nelson in the budget for this year. So we're asking to add that $3,000 in, which would bring his salary up to the number 82660. I did it effective May 16th. I've already gotten doing research and helping and all that, but you know, to get all that transferred over to make that happen. We talked to budget and this should work out okay.
But this is an increase in duties.
Yes, correct. So I'm taking the job that Dave Nelson used to do, giving it to Mr. Decken, and taking the money that Dave Nelson used to get for it, and also giving it to Mr. Decken. And it was, I think, $80 an hour is how it was budgeted for Dave Nelson, so.
If there are any questions, no, I have a motion. Motion by Supervisor Jacoby, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And I got a litigation update that we will do in attorney client, I can wait for that.
I will. Means,
Yeah.
hey, Mr.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna sit. I gotta rest because I worked too hard on the golf course over the weekend. So let me start off by explaining this VDC, everyone who doesn't know what that is. The state retirement system several years ago created a secondary program. It's actually started in SUNY for people considered highly compensated. And the threshold for highly compensated varies every year, but this year it's $78,000 a year or above. And it's capped at the governor's salary, which obviously changes every year as well. So within the first 30 days of employment, an employee has an irrevocable decision to make whether they want to join the traditional New York State plan that we all know and love, or want to join the VDC. And they're very, very different. The New York State traditional plan is a 30 years of service, 55 years of age, and it's a graduated scale. If you do below that for in reduction factors, okay? And there's a minimum age of 55, and it's a 10-year vest. We all know about that one. The VDC is very, very different. The VDC is not a defined benefit plan, but a defined contribution plan. So you're not promised a guaranteed number when you retire. It's a 1-year vest rather than a 10-year vest. And what happens is you can, the employer contributes 8% of your qualified salary. You can contribute up to 6% of your qualified salary, and those dollars get commingled into a escrowed account with the county treasurer for the first year. And during that first year, statutorily, you're guaranteed 2% return. On the 366th day, so the first day of your first year, your anniversary, those commingled monies then get transferred into an investment account with TIA, Craft, Fidelity, and there are 5 or 6 investment houses that you have an option for. And it looks a lot like a 401k. So what happens is you choose what investments you want. You can choose aggressive, you can choose conservative, you can blend, you can do anything you want. And those monies are 100% vested after 1 year, and all future contributions are vested after 1 year. So you're not looking at a 10-year vest or an age 55 minimum. So that's the way that plan works. And that's a brief overview, but that's essentially the way the plan works. It's been extremely attractive to most of our employees who qualify under the highly comped.
So does it also work like a 401k? You can lose, you can gain.
Correct.
It's not like New York State
Right,
retirement. You never lose.
Right.
Once you're invested, you get it.
Right.
You never lose.
Correct.
But this is part of
Yeah,
it.
you reap the benefits or suffer the consequences of your investment decisions. And depending on your risk tolerance. Right. Now, there are investment grade things in there that are guaranteed, but the numbers are pretty low. Again, it's like a 401k. It's those monies that you contribute are pre-tax. So there is a tax advantage there. And again, it's 100, and and then it's a taxable event when you take the money out. So that's what the VDC is. We actually have 2 VDC accounts set up, one for the hospital and one for the county. And the majority, as you would imagine, of people participating are in the hospital. Okay. That's just a quick overview of how it works. All right. Thank you. I just thought it might be beneficial to.
Thank you, because I didn't know.
Yeah. And
Yeah, not in our position.
okay, so the first 2 are kind of makeup. One is to pass the create and fill of a new human resources position, which has already been filled. Jennifer Schmidt was hired to replace Kelsey, who resigned. And this number 2 was a 1 week temporary position for Kelsey to overlap to do some coordination and training. Those are both now expired. Kelsey's last day was Friday, and she's moved on to a job as the lead human resources manager for Cornell Cooperative Extension for 6 counties. So we wish her well, and unfortunate to see her go.
So you said that this first one is already filled?
Yeah, the good young lady.
You got position created. Are we creating a new position?
No,
Yes.
no, it's a fill. It's not a create.
No.
This is a create.
Oh, no, excuse me. Number 3 is that one. Number 1 is something different. I apologize. I misread.
And on the creation paperwork, it says May 11th is the effective date, which is missing from the block. So is that a correct date?
Are we talking about number 1 or number 3?
All right, we
All right, let me start.
One is totally a whole new position.
Yeah, number 1, I misspoke. Let me retrace. I'm sorry. Pardon me for my error. So number 1 is a request to create a whole new position within AHR. This is in response to a conversation that we had at the full board last week, in which several supervisors questioned me about recruitment activities and other paperwork activities in HR. And I was questioned why I do not hire additional people by a couple of the supervisors. So based on that conversation, I'm here today to ask permission to do just that. And with the idea of focusing this person on recruiting and other human resources activities. And this was prompted again by comments from fellow supervisors.
How many positions do you have there? There's you, and there's how many under you?
What, counting payroll or not counting payroll?
Not payroll.
Okay, so there's myself and Gabby, who are the director and assistant director. There's Deja, who is exclusively focused on civil service. And then there's Tammy and this new young lady, Jennifer. That's it.
So there's a total of 5.
And then there's a secretary who's a secretary assistant, who is Michelle.
So there's a total of 6.
Right.
There's not. I did this just a week ago.
It's 9. If you count payroll.
If you count payroll, so there's 8. And one of those might be
8.
vacant.
If you're looking at the 2 payroll people, it's total of 8.
If you'd like me to bring that in, I can.
Well, I'm just curious as to why, I mean, you've grown this department since you've been there
Yes,
compared to what was there.
correct.
And
Significant.
so I don't understand why we would need another one at this point.
Well, again, this was reacting to comments by supervisors, but the justification would be a couple-fold. One is, I've already spent in hourly overtime in excess of an FTE. Proration. I will spend greater than an FTE in overtime this year. Over $40,000, $30,000 probably in overtime, because of the additional work. Most of it, quite honestly, is hospital related. We have an unprecedented number of vacancies and turnovers in the hospital at all levels. I've shared that with you on a couple of occasions, and we are spending a lot of time recruiting and vetting employees. And then the associated paperwork with all of that turnover is quite extensive. Right now, we are a couple of weeks behind in data entry because of the volume of paperwork. And I'm working to fill that with overtime. So that is the idea. We are also taking on, let me back up. I am focusing Deja more exclusively on work in civil service with regard to the follow-up in the various towns. As we all know, most of the towns in the county are woefully delinquent in fulfilling their obligations to the civil service with their payroll lists and other things. And I've got her focused on speaking with those towns that are significantly delinquent. We've talked about that here before. In addition, we've got an unprecedented number of lists out and tests being done. And several of those tests require physical agility, which are done on the weekends for police and deputy sheriffs and jailers. So that is generating quite a bit of time. With the loss of Kelsey, and we have a young lady who, quite honestly, is going to, I think, going to be okay, but she's on her 4th day. You know, how effective is she going to be? So that's where we are. And we are taking on some additional responsibilities that we never did. One of the examples of that is something we're going to talk about today, which is the expansion of the service awards, as an example.
Any thoughts?
Now, one question I have, I know we've mentioned before, room is, or your space is kind of tight. We got enough room in your area to put another person?
Yes. I've taken the hospital payroll person, Nicole, and she's downstairs. There's a vacant office downstairs that I'm using as a storeroom that I could convert to an office space, and with a little rejiggering of the furniture in the bullpen area, I think I could probably get another person in there as well.
I just wanted to assure we have enough working space.
Yeah, I wouldn't come to you and tell you I need to build onto the building.
Okay, just check it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Are all the positions in your office Schedule S, or do you have any CSEA?
They're all S.
Is that just because of the
Confidential nature of the work. And I don't want to use any, because the folks in my office are touching every day all kinds of personal information, garnishments, wages, healthcare information. I want to be very careful as to the trustworthiness of anyone I put in those, because they have access to literally everything.
I was just thinking, in the past, we've talked about having a floating person when somebody's out. And I thought, well, if you got some of the backlog taken care of in your office, would that person be available to go to other?
If it wasn't the confidential type work, I feel good about that, but I can't throw somebody into the records room unsupervised and say, here you go. I mean, it would be disastrous.
Who's the go-to person now that John's gone from Munis?
Jen, she's basically taken over the go-to role with Gabby, trying to get up to speed. However, I don't know whether everyone's aware of this, but the primary point person from Munis, who was assisting us in the payroll implementation, resigned from Munis last week. So right now, we don't have a person on point working with Munis implementation on the Munis side.
About the civil service side.
We can't do the HR and civil service side until the payroll side is done. So it's a open the door, close the door situation. So right now, we are waiting and working with Munis for someone to replace the Munis rep who resigned middle of last week. It's very frustrating.
I wonder if our contract, where's John? I wonder if our contract with Munis has some kind of remedy for getting our system up and running, because we're paying ACS 48, 42, something every quarter.
Right?
And we don't have any representation.
It's not our fault that they left. That left us wrong.
You know, understand the complexity of the HRIS payroll system integration. So every time anything changes in a personnel record, be it address, be it marital status, be it adding or taking a dependent off the rolls, be it a change in their wage, change in their job title, anything of that nature requires 3 separate data entries into the system. If it's in the sheriff's office or in the highway department, it's actually another one. So the goal is to get us to, we only have 1 data entry to move all these things for all our HRIS and payroll human resources information systems, sorry. And right now, because we have so many people touching it and so many re-entry of rework, that the opportunity for clerical errors is multiplied 3 and 4 times fold. And we're talking about people, and they're going to make mistakes. And it's unnecessary because we're redoing the same work over and over and over again because the computer systems don't talk to one another. It's very frustrating.
Right, so we need to get it onto the units so they're all on one.
Now, when we finally get there, theoretically, I won't need as many people because I won't be doing as much data entry. But
so refresh my memory, please. As far as recruitment, what are we currently doing?
we are advertising on the county website, hospital website. We're advertising on the web in Indeed. We're advertising at the New York State Job Service. We're advertising in the Penny Saver and all of the postings for approximately 100 positions across the county right now, approximately. It changes literally every day. We are receiving applications for all of those jobs. We're vetting each one of them individually, determine whether they meet the minimum qualifications of the job. If an applicant meets the minimum qualifications of the job, we are sending those applications out to the hiring managers for review. We follow up with the hiring managers to determine whether they have any interest in these candidates, and we coordinate the scheduling of interviews, coordinate the scheduling of pre-employment testing for, keystroke and things of that nature. And then we coordinate all the pre-employment physical activities necessary to bring these people on board. And there's also a candidate inflow that happens through the departments as well, that are not solicited by us. So that's essentially what we're doing.
And it's basically the same process, I'm guessing, that's been in place for a while.
For all intents and purposes, although our print media advertising has expanded significantly in the last 24 months. Our print media presence was nothing like it is today.
To where?
All of the penny savers in 7 counties and potentially in the Batavian News for certain jobs. One of the things you're going to hear from me is a request for some additional funding because I've already spent my entire budget this year already for advertising.
And so we've been hearing for several months that we've had a number of positions open. I think the number remains fairly consistent. And I'm not faulting because it's the same thing everywhere.
It's reality. And in some cases, Mike, it's not the same, we filled the
I
position
understand.
multiple times too.
And when somebody shuffles and moves from this department to that department, then it creates.
Right.
Domino
The domino
effect.
effect, right?
It gets frustrating, you almost.
Mhm.
Let's not bother advertising this month because nobody's gonna reply anyways.
Right.
Well, and there's a secondary effect to this, which I'm going to call the settle effect, because I know that there are department heads who are struggling with underperforming employees
Mhm.
who are saying, well, I guess I'm better with this than an empty chair,
Mhm.
which ultimately serves no one, but I understand what they're doing.
You have to have a body there.
Right. So I struggle with this, to be honest with you, but I think we have to still be aggressively out there trying to recruit employees.
It didn't refresh my memory, but didn't we just create a position
Yes.
in your department last time, right?
No.
Yes.
Yes, we created that 3 or that one higher level of assistant.
Oh, yeah, but that's not a new job. It was just a promotion for
Yeah,
just
but
more
we
money.
created one, so you're gonna have a vacant one. So now
No,
you
this-
want to create another one.
the same person. She,
Right, it's moving up, so
And-
it's going to leave a vacancy, you're gonna. unless
no,
you
I didn't increase the number of people in the department.
No, I know,
Increase
but
the number of positions in your department.
We didn't.
If you
eliminate
agree to
it.
this, the answer is yes. If you say no to this, no. The number of people stay the same.
I can share with you what happened last month, because if you remember correctly, even Janice said, it says create, we create.
Right.
Create.
We created another.
So
You're moving somebody.
it was at that point that I made a promise to do your structure, and I shared this with Gabby, the result. So I did every single position in your department ever since the inception of ACS. And I've shared that with several supervisors in your department.
Okay.
So that creates additional positions.
Well, if you've already granted me the ability to create a position, then I don't need this. I was under the impression that that had not occurred and that my head count had not changed.
Your
If,
head count hasn't changed yet, but you did create the position,
Well-
and you're gonna move somebody up into that position, that will leave you one.
Underneath.
well,
We didn't abolish.
We didn't abolish anything.
Mhm.
well, if that's the case, then forget about this. Because I don't need it. You've already done what I asked, but that was not what I was asking for. But
Right, because it was said that you weren't going to fill it, but now you turn around asking to create another one.
well, and
So
again,
it's either
the
you are or aren't.
the reason I'm here, as I started, is because at the committee of the whole, if you remember, several supervisors challenged me to do this.
So do you want to ask for permission to fill the vacancy that will occur? Should there be a promotion to an HR 3? Because that's what you would have.
If that's been already approved, then I don't need to ask.
That has not been approved. That part has not been approved.
But the potential vacancy is there. And this would create a second vacancy.
I'm not looking for two,
You know, when you just,
not looking for two.
So I know the person that you're targeting, and if that person moves, that will free up a
Yeah.
2.
Well, she was a two. I wouldn't backfill as a two, I'd backfill as a one, because it would be an empty entry level job.
You would need this, and then your 2 would be vacant.
Let it go dark,
After a year,
right?
unless you abolish it.
Or create a promotional opportunity for an internal candidate and let the other one go dark. But either way, yeah,
That's what's cooking.
right. So the concept here is add one additional person for all those reasons that I've just stated. And again, the reason I'm here is because I was challenged to bring this to the committee at the last meeting.
With this position, could we see potential savings in the recruitment, the advertising?
I don't foresee that.
No, if anything, I think we probably wind up spending more money on that, because I have somebody dedicated to it.
on here, you don't have any range of pay or anything. What are you thinking for ranges of pay?
Well, if we're talking somewhere in the 17 to 1850 neighborhood, depending on applicants and where we would be.
I figured out if we did the 1825, like the person in number 3, for a year plus benefits, it would work out to about 49,000. That's the benefits, I think we're at 48% or something.
But call it 50 grand.
Yeah.
Which is unbudgeted. Any thoughts?
It's hard to choke that money down with the thought that still gonna get the same number of applicants for that, you know, I mean, it's.
Yeah. Would this person be like processing the whole recruitment part or finding new venues?
I think that my vision for this would be that they would be primarily focused on recruitment, orientation, and retention. But there would also be some clerical, not related necessarily to recruitment, but just some HRIS clerical work that they'd be also involved with.
Would you really need a full-time person to do that? If the person was just, that's all their job was, would they really need to be full-time?
And I don't think retention can come from HR. I think retention needs to come from within the various departments.
I agree with that. I think what would help in retention is making sure that employees are getting to new employee orientation within the first 30 days of their onboarding, which is not happening consistently now. I think the exit interview process, which is hit or miss now, would maybe benefit in some retention down the road. Those are the things I'm thinking about. And also, for those of you who participate in the hospital, we're also reporting statistics on employees who have had timely evaluations. And there was a time before pre-COVID where we were up in the high 70s, low 80% of employees who've had timely evaluations. We're down in the 30s now. And that's just staying on top of the supervisors. We don't do the evaluations.
And if part of the goal is to help with the backlog at Munis, now we're back to a starting point, I'm guessing, because of their end.
On the payroll side.
Because of their end.
Yeah, we can't begin in earnest the HRIS side of the Munis implementation and turnover or transfer until payroll side is done.
I don't think we're going to square one, I think we're just at a standstill.
Yeah, we're not square one. I mean, all the work we've already done is still good.
But on their end, whomever they bring in may or may not be up to speed.
I was gonna say hopefully because they've had several people like touching it.
Correct, but we all know how that works.
Find somebody that's at least seen it a time or
Right.
two.
Right.
What a trade.
Do we have an issue now where we are losing candidates because you're not getting to them in a timely manner? If somebody applies for a job, you know, are they going 2 or 3 weeks before they get a response back from us or something? And by the time we get back to them, they're gone to another job?
On a relatively small number that's happened, but yes, especially in the hospital, when we have a slate of candidates, we refer them out to the hiring managers And again, some of the hiring managers are actually working. A lot of them are working on nights to cover shifts because they don't have any nurses, for example. So trying to get, a supervisory nurse to interview candidates is a scheduling issue. But this is not going to help that.
So what was we don't have a range. Some numbers are showing up, but nothing was really for the range of pay. It's being asked.
Wasn't somewhere south of that. Would they?
The marketplace for people with labor experience in human resources right now is very competitive. Kelsey, who some of you had a chance to work with and meet, took a job at Cornell for double that I was paying, double.
And he's got a.
She's undegreed. So,
But she's
I
also
mean,
in charge of 6
I couldn't,
copies, not just
Right.
one. So she should be.
and she could stay within the state of Texas.
We're not talking apples and oranges. I personally don't know that throwing more money into that pot is gonna put enough results on the far end of it, where we have all these openings and we're not getting them filled. I don't know if it's the way we're recruiting. I mean, if we're spending a lot of money in penny savers, although they are useful in certain areas, I don't know that they're useful for professional areas. And you're asking for $70,000 more to advertise in penny savers. And if you notice, the penny savers are getting smaller and smaller, and as they get thinner and thinner, so does the readership.
Do we do many job fairs?
We do. We participate
Maybe better.
either with a person or some kind of a platform in every virtual job fair and every in-person job fair. And we're somewhat successful in getting unskilled labor, but nurses, IT, skilled trades, any of that stuff, our success, the best platform for success for all of those categories has been the penny saver, as crazy as that sounds. Our professional ranks have been successful in Indeed to a certain extent. But nurses, CNAs, LPNs, billing, credit collections, those kind of jobs, the primary source of that has been the penny saver. And right now, I've got jobs, and in addition to all those jobs, we've got two county IT positions we're advertising for and recruiting for. And the comptroller at the hospital we're recruiting for. So.
And are we using a headhunter for those?
No,
We're just advertising in the penny saver?
the penny saver, online,
Your social
the county website, the hospital website. I don't think we need to spend headhunter money to recruit those jobs.
Dan, I have a question on the Indeed, just refresh my memory on the contract of that. Is it, I think we do something up to a certain amount?
Correct. We only spend if we post.
Okay. Because I don't think we had any postings on there right now.
Correct. So I'm not spending any money on Indeed right now unless we post. And there's nothing right now that, in my judgment, should be a regional or national search.
Tom McConnell used to reach out to like RIT for some of his staff.
I think Bill is doing that as well. There's a tremendous competition in the marketplace for IT people right now.
Does NICEAD still have a job posting?
Question.
On their website?
They must,
I remember them,
They did.
we used to do that for mental health directors.
Yeah.
Get somebody from that.
I was wondering too, I gave Dan this morning, I was watching the news and it's Channel 4 does Job for Buffalo, but I went and checked their website this morning and they're all over Warsaw, Arcade. So,
Yeah, I don't know whether they link it to the New York State Job Service or not. I'm gonna look at that.
yeah, they were local jobs.
Yeah, but we also have an automatic feed to the New York State Job Service as well.
And we were WCJW, if they have a website. Cause that would be local. And you don't have to do it all the time, but just cast it up.
No, I hear you.
Change it up.
And you do other penny savers like Easter or.
We are in 7 or 9 penny saver regions. We go south, far south as Bath. We go as far north east as Webster. We go into Rockport up in that area, and then down into Cat County. So we're drawing a big circle.
And I know we talked about this before. Are we into Allegheny County? I would think our money would be better spent south of us than north of us.
We are in Allegheny County.
All right, I just think north of us, we're competing against places and people that are going to pay more money.
Yep. Yeah,
Brockport, we might as well save our money, in my opinion.
yeah. I'll send you the map of
Okay,
the overlay.
thank you.
Yeah, I have that. And the circulation of those areas too, because that's important.
Mhm.
How many households the advertisements go into.
Alright, so back to the range of pay that you look. Or maybe pencil in.
Can we say a range between 17 and 19? And if it turns out to be different than that, I'll come back.
Do you have more questions or thoughts as to creating another position in HR? I'm assuming that you're not going to fill the one we created, I mean, other than the move,
Talk about one.
and you want to create this one. But we're not going to use.
Well, what I'm hearing from Dan is that if the promotion works out, 2 will go to a 3, 2 will remain vacant. And then this new creation will be where the new person comes in.
So you always have until the sun sets.
Or he asks for permission to do something with it, yes.
If he'll have to.
Can't do anything with it without permission.
Any thoughts? Janice isn't here to ask.
What?
I said Janice isn't here to ask.
I'll tell you that this isn't all budgeted, but it's already in here, so. There's money there now.
There's money there now.
That is on vacation.
I think we have other people coming and want more positions also, so.
I'm sure.
Thoughts? To move it? Not move it?
I'll make a motion to move it. And,
Further discussion at
out
finance?
there this month. If we have to call something out, call it out. See what is priority.
All right, I have a motion, Supervisor Grant, move this on to finance. Further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Number 4 is a request for a procurement card for Gabby.
Wait,
This,
we
We
gotta go
didn't
back
do
to, we gotta go back to 2 and 3.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought we already did that.
No. So 2 is actually just to fill it.
Well, this is housekeeping, it's done and over.
Temporary has been done.
It's over and done.
Okay, it's the temporary one, it's over and done, but we gotta just housekeeping. Okay, so I have a motion to do that.
That was for
It's for number
Kelsey.
2.
Yeah,
It's
Kelsey slides into a temporary position to overlap the new person.
For a week's worth of training.
She's already on, right?
Oh, I know, but the date says May 2nd.
She's
so I was just-
right now, yeah, but she will be very soon.
Right, it just says May 2nd, so I wasn't sure. I thought you said.
Her last day worked was Friday.
Okay, so that's just an overlap of the
Right.
dates.
But is she using up some benefit time?
Correct.
So she's still on there.
Oh, okay.
So we still need to have the May 2nd date.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Granger, is that correct? All in favor for 2 and 3?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now the procurement card.
Number 3 is a young lady by the name of Jennifer Schmidt. She came to us from the town of Castile with HR experience at Coast. Just, and by the way, she was the only applicant. God, so. Number 4 is a replacement procurement card. John turned his in, and we need one for Gabby. Same amount.
Supervisor Kale, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Number 5 is a update and revision to the donation of benefit time policy, which has not been reviewed for quite some time. It's attached to your packets, and we asked that it be amended.
Can you just, I read it, but I wasn't sure what did we change?
It really, the major change was a better definition of exactly how the procedure and policy worked,
Okay.
and also who in the policy and procedure was responsible for which portion of it. And then the biggest substantive change was that donated time does not flow back. Unused donated time does not flow back, because we're talking about hours, not dollars. So I donate to you, my rate of pay is different than your rate of pay. So,
Yeah.
right, right. Well, but you know what I'm saying. So we don't try to reconcile, that in the dollars. We just try to reconcile in the hours. And then if there's a donation bank in behalf of Jerry, for example, and he doesn't use it all, we don't then try to go back and try to apportion it back to those, to the.
So Dan, going forward, when you provide a draft, will you provide us with a red line draft so that when it's attached, they can see what the differences are?
Sure.
And then provide us with one that would be good to go for a resolution in the event that it's approved.
Okay.
So that they can actually see that.
Yeah, I read it, it was good, but, just.
Yeah,
But if you don't have both of them, you don't know what the change is.
yeah, I thought we submitted both.
No.
Okay, that's a good I'll talk to Gabby about that.
Okay, very good, a motion on that, anybody have any questions for the amendment? Next, I have a motion. Motion is Supervisor Jacoby, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Okay, number 6 is funding the Employee Service Award program that we've talked about and you voted upon here, so that we can move forward with that countywide. As you know, we currently do that at the hospital, and we wanted to overlay a unified milestone award for the entire population. And number 7 is approval to sign a contract with the vendor.
Now, I thought that the hospital already budgeted for part of that, or no?
The hospital has budgeted for their portion.
Okay, so 6,000 is gonna be total of our portion, because I was thinking 6,000 was the total of the whole program.
So it's 6,000 is for the entire county and hospital. We are out of awards, physical awards for the hospital. So one of the reasons we decided to do this is we were going to have to reorder the service awards. So we're not ordering the service awards that are engraved Wyoming County Community Hospital. We're going to have one plaque for everybody. I think I passed them around and we all looked at them. So in doing that, we're going to get a lower price break because we're not going to have individuals for the hospital and county. And we will have each employee's service time and their name engraved on the plaque. And the pins that we're going to be getting are not going to be hospital pins. They're going to be county pins. So that everyone in the county is treated the same regardless of the department they're assigned to. So a portion of this money is reallocated back to with the contract that I have in place with the hospital.
If I remember correctly, this was also not just a singular year, but it will carry into multiple years beyond this one.
Oh, yeah, it's an ongoing plan, right?
But this funding is for this year.
Correct.
That will budget going forward.
Because it doesn't exist on the county side now. So we're starting up a program for all the employees who reach milestones in this calendar year. The hospital is already there. So what we're talking about is a pin, a certificate, and a gift.
Will you invoice the hospital back? Is that how that works?
I think they have a budget line to buy some of that themselves. I'll double check that.
Because this clearly says it's for both hospital and county.
I think that amount is necessary because I am setting up the purchase. Rather than to have two purchases, we're going to just do one. And then we'll reconcile with the hospital. Again, it's going to be different every year because we're going to have different numbers of people every year.
Right, I just wanted, I'm asking so that it's clear, because if you're gonna order them, it would be reasonable then to invoice them their portion.
Mm-hmm. Right, I think that's absolutely right, and that's the plan. The thing is, I can't tell you what their portion is going to be every, yeah.
That's not the question I'm asking,
Yes.
just whether or not you got it.
That language needs to be in there.
I did
So
want to
that
know
moving
here,
forward-
thinking that Janice is gonna pick up on that and say, yes, it's done, and no, it's not done, and if the intention is to have it done, then she will be able to help whoever is assigned that task in
Right.
Dan's department to actually do that.
Right.
Okay, so let me voice a contrary thought. They're all county employees. They're all getting the same awards.
Right,
I don't reapportion the portion of it back to the highway department. I don't.
it's different from
I-
highway department, and
Why?
Janice will tell you that, but let her make that argument when she gets back.
Okay,
Well, with any department. The
Yeah.
town department, or buildings, grounds,
Yeah.
or.
I don't
In
charge them the
certain
$10 for the
instances,
black
everybody
bear.
gets their share, but, for the county side, to just purchase outright when he's got a contract to do services, the arrangement is different. So if the intention is to make sure that the reimbursement is there, maybe just in a journal entry, at least it's in the forefront and Janice has the information in the agenda, in the minutes. Because that's typically what we do.
Okay, anyone else have any questions on that? Not have a motion for 6 and 7.
Causing a lot of controversy.
Mr. Vegetarian, all in favor? Opposed?
Okay. Make sure I can cause some more trouble. 70 grand is for additional advertising expense, not just for the penny savers, but for all the venues.
What was your total budget?
We spent 20,000, we've already spent 19,300 this so far.
You budgeted 20,000 for the whole year?
Yep.
You pretty much spent that already.
Yep. The only alternative is to not advertise.
Any questions, any thoughts?
So it says for print advertising and say. Does the
So this limits,
20,000 that you already had budgeted and spent, does that include Indeed stuff as well, or is that a separate? I'm thinking.
I have an agreement with Indeed to a not to exceed amount. And we really haven't utilized the Indeed platform much this year because there really hasn't been any jobs that I would normally put in a nationwide or regional search. The only two that we really got involved with were the two lead jobs at the hospital, which we contracted out.
So with this 70,000, if you do have, I don't know, social services, whatever, commission.
We'll cover that with the Indeed as well.
Okay, so the 70.
Right. Or
Okay.
so instead of saying to, just for print advertising.
It's beyond-
It should just be say for
advertising. Right.
just advertising, period.
Now, to use your example, if we lost
It's not just the one.
several key positions in county department heads
Right.
or whatever, and we were going to have to go out for a more wide search, I have to come back to you and ask for more money on the Indeed side. I mean, if I was trying to conduct 2 or 3 department head searches at the same time.
But basically, it's just for advertising, period.
Employment.
It's not just for work stuff.
Employment advertising.
I guess I'm not understanding why you need 70,000 when for the whole year and when you did your budget, you said 20,000 would satisfy the whole year. I could see.
I asked for a lot more, and
That's a
when
lot.
the budget process was done, that we didn't get what we asked for.
Right, because with 6, 8, and 9, you're asking for $100,000 that wasn't budgeted. But it's excessive. But I'm not debating the fact that you obviously need to advertise. I'm just concerned with the budgeting ability there.
Last year, we went over your budget.
Mhm.
Every day.
Oh, yeah.
By how much?
How much did you go over that?
I don't remember the number. I remember we were over.
Because I'm sure that.
Too much.
Some way over last year's budget. This year's budget. I don't think she would have decreased it.
I guess the other thing that I will tell you that we have no control over is the price of the advertising has gone up significantly because they are taking advantage of.
Everybody's taking advantage
Yes.
of everything.
More thoughts? 70, or you want to give him less and come back later?
I'll move the 70.
There was motion by Supervisor Grant, and that's 70 for, we're just gonna go with advertising,
Employment.
employment advertising. They got just for the board of health, I said, because it's not just for that. Right.
No, I'll put it down. 60.
Well, in reality, it's not the Warsaw Penny Saver anyway, because it's the entire Penny Saver organization.
Right.
But you was paid worse, so they cover everybody else, right? So.
Well, I was entering the Penny Saver system through the Warsaw Penny Saver, but found that their customer service really wasn't up to speed. So I've moved my entry point to another Penny Saver office where I'm getting much better service, and quite honestly, the creative artwork that we're getting is superior. So we're using the Penny Saver network, but we're not doing it through the Penny Saver Warsaw office anymore.
Right. All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Grant. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thanks.
Opposed? Carried.
Hi,
Okay. This is a request to fund additional overtime. However, I think if you're going to grant me the opportunity to bring on somebody, I don't need this.
You might need some of that. Because we've got some housekeeping to do.
You've already paid overtime and that budget.
Yeah.
On April 13th, overtime is schedule S&D. Overdrawn by 338907, but you say here your expense from 1/1/22 to 4/15/22 was 7210. So minimally, you gotta do 7210.
Yeah, I think to catch me up, we need that. We don't need the full 24 if we can augment with some new folks.
We're changing that to 7210 instead of 24. So the ask is going to be done.
That would bring them to zero according to the rules that I have.
Currently, I think so.
Or is something going on right now?
No.
Yes. You got, there's no overtime budgeted for 2022.
Not spending overtime.
It's been
Yes. So, but I mean, like, if this would bring it up to
0.15 as a negative.
and if somebody's worked overtime since 4/15.
Oh, yeah, but then you may have the opportunity to transfer from another budget line. This is the number that I know right now. I would let Janice deal with the rest, so we should get in this.
Yeah, get this back. Okay, so
According to the backup, I know.
okay, so it looks like we need $7,210 to bring it to the zero balance with that overdrawn in that line. Correct? So that's the number we will go with, is the 7,210. The changes go back. And we motion to appropriate that.
All right, number 10 is.
Wait.
Oh,
Did I get a motion? Yeah, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
got my handout again in number 10, this time for $17,500. This is for the payment of unused benefit time for 3 departing employees. Sue, John, and Kelsey.
Have a motion? So, Supervisor Jacoby, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. I don't have any action on that one.
Okay, couple of discussion items. One is, I think I sent each of you an email. We have reached a tentative agreement on a successor agreement with the supervisory unit at the hospital. For those of you who are unfamiliar, that's a small unit of professionals, working supervisors, pharmacists, and others. Is about 25 people in that bargaining unit. It is a Me Too mirror of the main unit in terms of money and percentages. The vote for that will be next week. I also wanted to give you an update on the CFO candidate search.
Sorry. The vote next week, you won't see it.
Oh, no, it'll pass. Yeah. Well, overwhelmingly, I'm expecting. they're pretty happy. We have been engaged in a CFO search at the hospital, as many of you are aware, very similar to the process we use for the CEO search. We vetted in the neighborhood of 70 to 80 total candidates, whittled them down through the vet process. We ended up with 4 finalists that were interviewed by the search committee, ended up with 2 of them, and we ran them through the same multiple interview process that we use for the CEO. Not quite as many as 25, but we had probably 10 or 12 people interview them, as well as Dave Kovis, who is our CEO to be. And we've landed on an individual. I'd be happy to share with you all of his details, but I'd like to do that in executive session because the formal offer has not been made to him and he has not had a chance to speak with his current employer. But if you want to know the details, I'm certainly willing to do that with you in executive session. We also have some grievances moving forward. I don't normally talk to you about grievances, but these are kind of interesting. As you know, we separated with about 25 people who refused to be vaccinated and who were represented by the union. And the union filed the grievances on their behalf, and those grievances have been sitting idle by mutual agreement with the union to freeze the clock, so to speak. The union has now requested to unfreeze the clock and start moving these grievances through the grievance procedure. And so far, I've resisted that because under our contract, once I start the process, there's a 61-day clock. And on the 62nd day, I'm forced to bring the person back to work or put them back on the payroll. And I can't put them back on the payroll because they're not vaccinated. So we're in a situation where I'm actually courting the union to file an unfair labor practice charge of PERB against me because it's ridiculous for one agent of the government to demand that I do something that is exactly what the other agent of the government is telling me I cannot do. So, and we can't be the only ones in this situation across the state. So I wanted to let you know that that's going on. I am trying to protect the county's interests in not having to pay a couple of dozen people to sit at home who can't work. And the longer I can push that out, I think the better off we're going to be. So that's what's going on. And at the same time, I'm reaching out to these people with olive branches to say, look, if you get vaccinated, I'll welcome you back with open arms. Or if there's another position somewhere else in the county that doesn't require a vaccination, we'd love to have you back. Because for the most part, these people were good people and we like them. So we are reaching out to them individually. A couple of them have actually decided to get vaccinated, and a couple of them we are talking to about positions that don't require vaccination. But that's what's going on, to just let you know. And the EAP report is in there, continue to have really good traction with that, and we continue to be very happy with their activities. And then the last thing from a discussion point of view is the Buildings and Grounds Department is asking to create a new position in the CSEA agreement of a custodian. And this is a brand new position to the bargaining unit. I'm engaged with the union and talking about that. There's a procedure in the contract to do that. And it would be a position in that department at a lower price range than we're currently paying for that kind of work. So just let you know that we're doing that as well.
And we had a custodian that went to a senior custodian. Was that title just never picked up then by the?
It's a position lower than the senior custodian.
I know, but we had one.
Yeah, it's not a bit active because it went dark.
It just didn't make the agreement.
Right.
Okay.
So let you know that that's going on too. And then the civil service report is nothing outstanding there.
All right, anybody have any questions for Dan?
Time really flies.
Cheryl?
I know.